12, you have like 12 station and like 8 through 11 don't even work, and then 12 pops on. I'm like,
Oh, and I have no internet. Of course, why would?
Are you ready, Steve, or do you need another?
No, it says I have no internet.
He said that like it's a bad thing.
comes one of those back in my day speeches.
I got a million of them.
Let's hear it.
And they're even better the fourth time we hear them than the first, right?
But then it's a whole different story.
It's a little different than the first version I heard. Okay. All right, well, I will call to order our Planning Commission meeting for February 13th of 2024. Thank you, members of the public and everybody being here. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Collins will lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll begin our meeting by declaring let's have Commissioner Holbert come up since we're one short. And then also, before we get started, Brody, would you stand up? This is Brody Bailey. He's also an alternate now on the Planning Commission, was sworn in 3 weeks ago. Is that right?
Approved, yes.
Something like that, so.
Nobody told you about the dress code?
He just
You've
comes
done
straight
well.
from work.
By the way.
All right, so with that, are there any conflicts that any of the commissioners need to declare?
No.
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 2, which is approval of the December 12th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Any discussion or motion?
Make a motion that we approve the December 12 meeting minutes.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Item number 3 is approval of the January 9th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Motion we approve the January 9th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously as well. We will move on to agenda item number 4, which is a request for the site plan and architectural approval for Roy 66, located at approximately 1930 West, 6000 South. So we'll go ahead, we'll have the applicants come forward, and if you would please state your name and your address, and then tell us about your project.
Jason O'Lynn. Do you want my address personally or for the business? Because I live in the Washington
Typically, it's
Terrace.
where you live,
Okay.
so.
It's 5597 South, 500 West in Washington Terrace. So we're looking to add a storage type facility building. I think that Steve might have given the plans to everybody. According to what we're looking at as far as what the requirements are, I think we've come in contact with everything that we need to as far as building the building. The site plan has been updated. I gave Steve a copy of that the other day, and it's got a lot of the agenda, or a lot of the administration items that were in question outlined. So that's what we're planning on doing. I don't know if you guys have that information in front of you, or if you have it. Do you have the original site plan? Do they have that?
You have the original, yes.
Okay. So the original site plan building was with the building behind the existing building, 25 feet, as it states in your meeting notes on, let's see, about the accessory buildings. I think that was the July city council meeting where it was approved for storage structure, permanent structure, storage of goods, vehicles, equipment associated with business and so on, shall be located 25 feet behind the principal building in the rear of the yard, minimum side and rear setbacks of 10 feet, except if adjacent to residential arms and so on. So that site plan does show that. My updated site plan does show the irrigation, landscaping, and so on. I was not aware that we had to approve the whole site. That's why this site plan was originally submitted. So, and I've got the runoff, retention, detention on the west side of the lot, and parking outlined in that new site plan. So, my question I had is, in some of the notes that you guys had, it said that it cannot be metal, but that contradicts that in 4A, it says must be of similar materials and colors as to one of the primary structures of the original building. And we have corrugated metal on the top of our building, which would be one of the structures on our building. So that was one of my questions I had as to building a metal type building.
Yeah, and we can address that in just a minute. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? All right, thank you. We may have some questions in a minute, but thank you for the moment for explaining that. Steve, we'll turn it over to staff for a minute.
Excuse me. Okay, as mentioned, this is site plan and architectural review approval for Roy 66 there at 1930 West, 6000 South. As he mentioned, it's to add a new building behind the existing primary building. You've got the history that kind of went through what's transpired since '98 when the original site plan was there. For the most part, the building can meet the requirements. To answer the question is, yes, primary buildings, and we had this discussion, may be built of different materials, but the current zoning doesn't allow for corrugated type metal. It allows for architectural grade metal, but not corrugated. Kind of like, if the building was built in cinder block, yes, we need to have some sort of consistency between the two buildings, but also comply to the ordinance. So we will have to kind of make some looks at it and how do we make the two look the same, but still meet the ordinance. So, kind of if you have some direction on that would be great. I just know corrugated metal is not a material. Back in '98, they did allow for that kind of stuff in those zones. In 2005, when the regional commercial zoning kind of came in, they eliminated all metals from the code for commercial type buildings. It was only allowed in manufacturing and light manufacturing buildings. So we kind of tell we're two codes ago when the original building was built. So if we stay with architectural grade metal is metal. It's just not the corrugated that is on there. But I'll let you guys kind of make that interpretation of how you want it to follow through. Site plan wise, again, he's meeting the minimum setback behind the primary building and the 10-foot from the setback from the property line. As you see, there's an existing storage building that would need to come to today's compliance as well. It never received approval or a building permit. Kind of here's the design of the building. It does mimic, I believe, the main building has kind of a sloped roof going from one edge to the other. So he is looking at architecturally that way. There are a few things in the code that requires 15% glazing, stuff like that. But again, those are things that can be easily accomplished without large changes to the building. By most part, again, both the site plan can meet the code. I know he wasn't planning on paving the whole thing and doing that, but we can do it in phases. If he wants to do the front part where customer parking and stuff, we can do that, and then a year or two down, we can pave the rest of it, just kind of as a phase and a subdivision. We just have to make sure we're complying that commercially, there should be no parking on gravel. It needs to be all on asphalt or concrete. So there may be some limitations in the back, but those are things that we can, kind of put in phases to make sure that everything comes under compliance. So staff doesn't mind, kind of working with them to put it in 2 parts and 2 or 3 parts, however it comes about. So staff would recommend approval of the site plan and architecture with the conditions as mentioned in the staff report and the DRC comments.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners?
Just so the portion of the site there out in front of the wall on the west side, that's future parking, is that what that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's intended to be all paved, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Commercially is a little different than residential. Residentially, gravel is an approved surface to park on, but commercially is not.
And then on the materials, is that something that they would just work with you to,
Well,
to
I'd like
do,
some
or what are
direction
you-
from you guys. I think we'd stay with the architectural grade metal versus corrugated. It meets the code and it still is a metal building. So there is some consistency in the two. One's just an older building versus the new.
Right.
So if they did tear down, say they tore down the primary building to build it new, it would comply with the existing storage building. Not that he's gonna do it, but just saying, if, 10 years from now, everything goes great and he wants to increase the size of it and move it around, then has that ability.
So currently the building looks like it's like center block and then some metal
Yeah.
material at the top.
Only the roof line that's got the corrugation then,
Correct.
not the main structure.
But cinder block's not an allowed permitted use or permitted material. It could be brick with some metal on top, or because this zone does allow for an 80-20 kind of,
Mm-hmm.
so 80% could be metal and some of it could be brick or something.
Mhm. I think it's a little bit hard because we don't know, obviously, what the price ranges and things he's looking at, but, the top part that is the metal, there are I've seen a lot of vinyl options and different things that kind of look like that you could do a similar look, maybe, but with something other than corrugated metal, I guess.
It would just have to be one of the approved listed materials.
Yeah, that's kind of a toughie knowing.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think we should just go with the architectural metal, as it's within the ordinance, and then do the phased parking like you said. I think that's a good idea. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Just put that
I
in
like the-
motion.
I like the phase parking that will allow them to spread the cost out if that's necessary, so. I like the general design of it. I think it'll look nice from the plans.
If they didn't pave right off, like right now, with this building coming in, it's taking up 3 or 4 existing stalls. It's still able to park within the ordinance, right?
Well, that would be,
Just curious.
as he's building it, we'll need the replacement of those stalls somewhere. So I think as he's building this, he'll need to pave. But we're not gonna pave now because most asphalt companies are gone. So they may, have a month or so where the building's being built and yet pavement hasn't occurred yet. But occupying the building, we can control that the parking lot needs to be installed prior to occupancy of the building.
Remind me what the ordinance says about the glazing requirements?
It says
15%.
15% of the front, or the
Front.
portion that would front the street needs to be glass.
Okay.
So that could be in the garage door itself or a window.
Are applicants willing to include that? Sure. You can come up, Kenny. What?
I've got two questions on that part of it, and yes, it can be, but where it's not gonna be facing the street per se, because it's behind a building, is that strict code, is what my question is, because it's a storage building, it's not facing the street, does it need to have windows in it? We're using it for mostly storage, I don't want
I was gonna say,
peeking
we
into it
recently-
basically. But I can, along the top of the building on the top right, I could always put windows along the top of that could equal 15%. But that was my question about the 15%. When I read the code, it kind of didn't make sense to me if it's gonna be a building behind a building and it's not really facing the street, is that's a confusion on my part, I don't know.
Yeah, let's look it up and,
Well, the ordinance just says minimum transparency of the facade that facing the street is 15%. So behind a building, I don't think that was, because usually it's gonna be behind the building anyway, 25 feet. So it's the portion would be fronting the street.
And for what it's worth, it doesn't have to be a window per se. It can be a faux window as long as it has a
As
glazing
long as
look,
when someone drives by, it looks like a,
looks like a window.
and like I said, it could be part of the garage door.
Yeah, the
Or
garage
some of
door.
those panels could be glass or plexiglass or whatever those happen to be, as long as it gives that appearance.
And we do have those type of glass windows on our existing building. So I could match those. I just, being a storage building, I didn't want to put as much glass in it.
Yeah,
And honestly, if we were gonna replace our garage doors because of crime and different things, I want to get rid of some of the windows in my existing garage doors going forward. I'm not planning on doing that. I'm just saying, just with people walking by, seeing into the shop, stuff like that, it is a concern of mine to have. I mean, we've got 4 panels on our existing garage doors that are glass. And then I did have one other question about the corrugated metal compared to architectural metal. Can someone, I'd not, what's the difference, is what my question is.
Right,
Is it the
and
thickness?
that's, I mean, it's just listed on, and corrugated metal is just not one of those on the list.
But what's the difference between
Well,
a
if you go to like Home Depot, you'll see the standard corrugated. But if you go look at the architectural metal, which they use for roofing or siding, it's flat, then it's got a little lip, and then it's flat and it's got a lip, so it's not a constant.
And that's what we're gonna have. We're
Corrugation.
not having corrugated. It's not, that building is not corrugated. It is flat, jump up, and it's the thicker
So-
metal. These are the color swatches too. They almost match the existing building perfectly. So that's the reason I'm going with those 2 colors, is because it would match the existing building. So I think that what is there is it's not corrugated like you would build a raised flower bed out of, per se. It's flat, it's thicker, so on.
The unfortunate part is I mean, what's listed is listed, so there's not really no deviation that you can do. It's just more of, do we want it metal, do we want it brick, do we want it what? Because again, the design standards are based on aerospace, which is more flat and shiny and smooth rather than.
Yeah.
So you could, leave it to staff to make sure that it is some sort of architectural grade metal,
Metal, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
and I can definitely, look into what those look like and stuff, and then compare it to what's being proposed.
yeah, it
If
does
you
seem
wanted to
like
come
there
back
are,
to you, then we can bring it back to you.
it does seem like there are different types of options, so like what he's saying, the one he chose could be an architectural metal or very similar to one maybe, so,
Yeah, there was no indication of what the material actually was.
right,
so
right, so.
Just
My-
going off
and my
the
rep
visual.
from Roper was supposed to be here. He kind of dropped ball on me to answer those questions. And my question is, too, on that, where this will match the existing building a lot better than a vinyl siding or a cement board or something like that. That would be more residential type look to me. So according to what we have proposed, I think would match the building the best, the existing building.
I think you could probably work with staff and find a solution
Yeah,
there.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Put that in your
The original
motions.
building doesn't look bad, so
Yeah.
anything that look real similar to that would be fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Agreed.
from the architectural standpoint, as we redevelop things, and make things nicer, obviously, one of the things I think, at least I've tried to do, is make it so we're not getting back to like the old, really cheap tin shed kind of a look. We want something that does look a little bit nicer. Now, clearly, we don't want that to be crazy expensive for people to do, but we do want, as we're modernizing and upgrading, we definitely want to improve the quality and not just have, a terrible looking shed in the end. And I don't think this would be terrible looking, but we do want something that does look nice, because, if you're there now, you've been a business here for a long time, which is really appreciated in Roy. I think you're going to be here for a long time, but we also have to think through, what does this look like 10, 20 years from now as well?
And with that, I mean, you can tell by the building, we take pride in
Yeah.
the city, we take pride in what we're doing. Where we're at right here with the 4 cars parked out front, that is in my budget and in my plan to be paved right now. So that will take care of the parking problem in the back that we're losing. And it will also have a landscaping border along the front of that fence and over on the west side, where we will put landscaping in, irrigation, and a water retention on the west side. So the project is intended to make the place look better. Not just make the place look better, but also to have a better place for my customers to park, especially in the wintertime, and safety and so on like that.
I think I think it'll do a lot for that area, and I think that you're doing a lot of great things. So I think, like, if you just work, like we said, with staff probably on the specific materials to make sure that they meet code, I think, at least in my opinion, that would suffice, for the material wise.
It also states that because of some existing buildings being done without approval from the city, are you willing to also change their exterior to match?
If I need to, I can. My apologies for that not being taken care of. I didn't know we needed planning commission approval when I put those up. And if you go back into the 2007, when there was a building put up that was an A-shed storage unit, everything that's been done to the property has been done through contractors that were asked if we need building permits and so on. The existing building that you can see in the back right there is a coast-to-coast carport, and they told me that we wouldn't need a building permit because it's a movable structure. That's why that wasn't presented, and I wasn't aware that I needed to present it to the commission. I've been in business for 7 years. I bought it from my dad, who had it from 1980 to 2017. We've been in the city for 44 years. I'm learning, so I ask for your forgiveness on the planning commission, because I was not aware of that issue. But yes, we can do things if needed, but I mean, we are under a little bit of a tighter budget to be able to do things all at one point.
And does the phase paving help you out in that
The phase
front?
paving does in the back, because I do not have the funds to do the back. I have the funds secured to do the front parking, the curbing, the French drain, and the building in the back is where I'm at right now.
Okay.
But the one behind the fence, and I didn't really want to do the one behind the fence until I was absolutely ready. But the reason I want to do the front is for curb appeal, beautification, stuff like that. And I've got the color samples too, if you guys need those for approval also.
Any further discussion, or a motion is in order?
I'll make a motion. Thank you. Make a motion that we recommend approval, site plan of the Roy 66 at approximately 1930 West, 6,000 South, meeting staff recommendations.
Have a motion for the site plan.
I'll
Second.
Second, oh, sorry.
Is that Spar or Collins?
Jason.
Flip a coin.
Okay, it was Commissioner Spar.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yep.
Okay, there's our second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Now one more motion is in order.
I make a motion that we approve the architectural review with the conditions that all current and future DRC reviews and comments are complied with along with any conditions as stated in the staff report.
Does that include working with staff on the materials?
Yes.
And includes the phased paving.
Well, that was on the site, not the architecture, but
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I retract that.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the architecture as outlined in the report, including working with staff on the materials.
I second that.
You have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously as well. Item number 5 on the agenda is Commissioner's Minute. I don't have anything to add. Did any of the commissioners make it out to the open house? Anybody want to comment on what they saw there, or?
We were well represented, that's for sure, of all the cities.
Yep.
And lots of positive feedback from citizens that were there. We had 2 citizens that were there. Lots of good feedback, lots of great recommendations. Felt like it was well organized, just not as well attended as I'd probably hoped. But we did have citizens there, and we did have obviously bodies there, including our new commissioner.
Yep.
So.
We
but,
wrote down a lot of things on the little
yeah,
maps they had. So
Made a lot of
hopefully,
things, so-
hopefully we get some of them.
It was fun to color on the maps.
Yeah.
Did they have numbers that you got to color?
Yeah, different colors,
And
colors.
stickers too.
stickers.
Yep.
lots of options to connect east and west,
That's what-
especially over tracks and over canals. There's a lot of recommendations that connect those, and anything that's associated with our parks. There again, we're considered that, and then a major north-south under the power lines to add another connectivity on the west side was recommended, but that would go all the way through the county technically, so, and connect to Davis if they wanted to, but, yeah, lots of good feedback, lots of great recommendations.
And I do think it was really good that Roy did show up so much, because hopefully they'll notice that we really want to be involved and everything, so hopefully they'll come to us more.
We're kind of the crossroads, you know, obviously when you look at those maps, a lot of it kind of goes through us, so it's good that we were represented.
And in the earlier meeting, we had a good representation too. We had 2 council members, a mayor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff members, so.
Excellent.
So long before you guys showed up, there was
Yeah.
already, you know,
More.
the stakeholders meeting for the cities.
More than any other city.
Oh, yeah, well, I think we were 2 to 1 for every city.
Go Roy.
Excellent. Any other items from any of the commissioners they want to bring up?
Oh, I was gonna say that if you ever want scouts to come do the pledge, let me know and I'll bring some.
Okay, I would say just whenever you want, whenever the scouts
Okay.
need to.
Well, I'll work
that's-
it out with Steve so that's on the agenda or whatever, but
I'm always open to having scouts come and.
I just think that, I think
Participate.
some of them have to come to a public meeting anyway to pass off certain things. so.
badge.
Okay, well, I'll get on it.
Okay, awesome. Moving on to the next item, staff update.
Not much to update. The Abington Heights, they're on 19 and Hinckley is getting fairly close to being finished. The project on 4300 West and 5500 South, there are some units up for sale already out of the 32. Staff's just kind of busy trying to get grants in order to write our water conservancy portion of the general plan that's due by December of 2025. So we're hoping for some grants for that. Please cross your fingers. They're supposed to come back here shortly and let us know if we get it or not. And then the trails, active transportation for Weber County, that's just going on nicely. I like being involved with that just because, you know, we have our trails plan, but does it connect it with West Haven, Hooper, and so on. So it was good to see that many of our ideas were also being translated, you know, just by West Haven themselves. So Layton Canal was on theirs, Hooper, or Howard Slough was on there. There was a few other canals that were farther west that, you know, I didn't really pay attention to because, well, they're farther west than Roy, but, you know, concerns of getting over the railroad tracks was mainly in ours, but, you know, a lot of people had some good ideas, and so that's moving along.
Must have a new pretty blue water meter at my front yard.
You have a new water meter,
Yeah.
Secondary water.
secondary water
Is that a
meter?
secondary meter?
Yeah.
Because
they-
it's right in the same place as my other meter.
Yeah, they were required to meter everybody's secondary water.
Isn't that by 2029 or something? I don't remember the exact.
It was a quick turnaround.
That was a quick turnaround.
So I think it's 2025, I
Oh,
think they have
maybe.
to everybody
Yeah, I
done.
can't remember exactly.
So,
They do it and I didn't know about it? I didn't know about it.
other than that,
If not, they're
It's not where I
coming.
expected it to be for secondary, but
Yeah, ours was a while back, so.
What do we know about the property over where the old Dilly Deli's was? That's still,
still the same spot.
is it looking like that's ever gonna move forward, or is that dead in the water?
Yeah, because again, they were helping us get through the CRA through the Weber County and Weber School District and through the other, you know, larger taxing agencies. So I don't know what they're waiting on. That's more in the economic development strategist than mine. Once they feel comfortable with that, then they'll re-engage. But they, you know, they want to build. I mean, the railroad that, when you get off the 56, off of I-15, other than in the streets, is pretty much gone.
yeah.
So they're gonna convert that to a trail, but there's still a debate, is that a walking trail or is it a people moving trail where they have some sort of electricized vehicle?
Bad idea.
It goes from downtown Ogden to 650 North in Clearfield, so I think it's just needs to be a bike and walking trail, but
Interesting, yeah.
I'm not the politician that, you know, goes through that.
Right.
I was gonna say, I kinda love that idea, actually, but,
The people moving.
yep.
I mean, 56 is your biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
How do you get up and over or down and under?
Never work.
And there's some big water lines under. So,
Are we gonna lose our fountain with their expansion? Do we know?
probably.
No, not our fountain.
Motion to relocate.
You
Not
sound
the
so
fountain that doesn't work.
heartbroken, Chris. You sound so heartbroken.
He has many great
I
memories
believe
as a
it's on the
delinquent
chopping
and the
block,
things
but I
that he
couldn't,
did to the
don't
fountain.
quote me.
Hey, the one over
Bubble
by
bath
Harmon's is
and-
pretty
That's
nice.
$75,000 ever spent.
Other than that, that's all I've got.
Okay, well, I think our final motion is in order.
What about the mixed use over by the liquor store?
Oh.
Sorry, one more.
That's kind of still sitting in the same spot.
The money. Sorry.
Yeah, they were waiting to hear on the CRA type stuff.
All right, sorry.
Okay, you're
Motion to
good.
adjourn.
Second motion adjourned in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Somebody already motioned?
Hey.
Still passes.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Felt?
Felt.
Well, Chris, you can stay here.